Well, welcome to the overnight. We are about a day and a half from the draft. There's a lot of misinformation this week that I've been reading. What the Giants are going to do. They're thinking about trading down, trading back in the first round. They're going to take Carter, going to take Hunter, going to take Shedeur Sanders. I even saw someone take a Mason Graham, but that's a little far-fetched. And I said it back in February. You want Mason Graham? Then you're going to have to trade Dexter Lawrence to Jacksonville. And you'll have extra draft capital. And then you'll have a really young defensive line. If you draft Carter and you make that trade to Jacksonville and you get Mason Graham, would that be a nice little young defense? There'll be some growing pains, but I still say if when the Giants are going to be relevant, Dexter Lawrence is going to be on near 30 years of age, and I'd say get value now. I know it's unpopular. I know people push back on it, but think about this. Like I said, always been saying that the schedule. I'm sorry, a quarterback is not gonna improve this offense. It's just fucking not. So, I still think Brian Daboll's fired by week 8. It's and a lot of things have to be fixed before. The culture of the locker room, the leaders have to lead. You can't just, all this fucking shit. You have to fight. There's so much to be repaired during preseason and during training camp and shit like that. So, I just think, Abdul Carter would be fucking phenomenal. That would make up for the fucking Micah Parsons, because the Giants were interested in Micah Parsons and they passed him up. But Abdul Carter, with Brian Burns and Kayvon, and I think if they get Carter, I think Kayvon is done. I think they're going to trade him later in the draft, like later on that night or before round 2. Now you put Abdul Carter and Brian Burns, and you have Dexter Lawrence, and then you draft another defensive tackle, because there's a good defensive tackle class. I think this would be an ideal little defense, and will it fit Shane Bowen's scheme? That's the other thing. But we'll see come Thursday. If they take Travis Hunter, that wouldn't be, and then going to the quarterbacks, you've been seeing that the Giants may trade back in the first round to get Jalen Milroe, or Jackson Dart, or Tyler Shuck, whatever his fucking name is, whatever the fuck. I still think, and this wouldn't, I still think Kyle McCord would be an answer that nobody's been talking about, or very little people have been talking about. I still think Kyle McCord would be an ideal franchise quarterback for this team. And I think that I still believe that. I still think that Kyle McCord, I think they can, and that could probably save Daboll's job. Probably could. But if you take Sanders, it's either DeVito or Winston is gone. So that means you wasted money on Winston or DeVito. But I think if you get McCord, then you can get rid of fucking DeVito, because DeVito, and all I hear is just fucking Brian Daboll. He's a very good coach and quarter. Stop. I don't, you know what? Your record says what you are. 9-25 the last 2 seasons does not indicate you're a very good coach. You do not develop, period. And I've asked, what player from the 23 draft class improved it last year? Can you answer that? Maybe McFadden? Other than that, Deonte Banks improved? No. Did John Michael Schmitz improve? No. So, tell me something. Tell me, what makes you think Brian Daboll is a good coach? And he's only developed one good fucking quarterback. And that's Josh Allen. You name me any other fucking quarterback aside from Mac Jones, Tua, and Jalen Hurts. Because he was with them at Alabama. I'm talking about in the NFL. You tell me what quarterback has he made successful. And please don't tell me Brett Favre, because that was at the end of his career. Other than Josh Allen, who has he developed into a quality player that had a really good career? You can't. Sorry. I think Brian Daboll is a good offensive coordinator. Coach, that's another fucking story. But if you're a good offensive coach, you can figure it out. You can, for what you have. And this team doesn't. I'm sorry. Him and Kafka, you still don't know who's going to call the plays. And he's saying, like, oh, we're going to wait till preseason. You know what? Right then and there, it's just going to, that fucking Kafka's going to call the plays. I just think it's going to be both. It's going to be a sprinkle of both. And that's a recipe of disaster. Because you didn't, other than the offensive line that you signed no fucking skill play. Well, I don't know if you can call they signed a couple of wide receivers, but we had one who didn't even have a catch or a target last year. So what good is that? And then they're saying that, like, draft night, the players who could be expendable by trade, it was Evan Neal, and which is whatever. Or just moving the guard, or Jalen Hyatt, which they fucking completely didn't even fucking let him, just didn't develop right. And you got Kayvon. I mean, Evan Neal, and if you're going to trade Evan Neal and Jalen Hyatt, you're not going to get much. You'll get maybe a 6th or 7th rounder. Or you can just keep him and fucking develop him correctly. That'd be a good idea. But Kayvon, you could probably get a late 2nd, early 3rd for him. And you can get your quarterback, and you get McCord. I just don't, I mean, if the Giants get Milroe, it'll be a lot of RPO. Just like they did with Daniel Jones. It'll be a lot of RPO. I mean, they're comparing him to Lamar Jackson, which I don't, but I just think McCord would be better off with the Giants than Milroe. But whoever it is, I'll root for them regardless. But Joe Shane has to get this right. He has to get the first. I mean, like I said, it's either, Hunter or Carter. I would be fine with either. And whatever happens after that, he'll get what we need. Linebackers, we need more offensive line help, a defensive tackle. Maybe another cornerback. I figured Hairston would be a third round pick, but I think now they're projected early, like second round. But we'll see. We'll see what the Giants do Thursday. All this misinformation and all this stuff that's going to start coming out and whatnot. He's like, you know what? I ain't listening to all that shit. I'll read it, but I won't buy it. I won't buy it at fucking all. But when 5:30 rolls around, when the Giants pick, and then it'll all come to an end, and then we can all comment on it. But that's about for the Giants, and not for the fucking Yankees, where Aaron Boone still doesn't have a full understanding of the fucking pitching. Because last night's loss was, to me, a little bit of a fucking disturbance. Because of the fact that Will Warren was pitching fine. He only gave up a leadoff single in the first. And he was pitching well. And then we opened up the sixth, hit, and then you fucking pull him. Let him try to get out of it before you start to pull him. And then you go to fucking Mark Leiter. I think when Loitzka comes back, Mark Leiter's finished. And then to let Escara let that ball by him, to let Quan score from second, and then Anthony Volpe, I think, is just right now. He's the bridge to George Lombard. It's that simple, because I don't know how gave him this fucking Gold Glove, but he can't field, and he can't fucking throw sometimes, and the defense is fucking reared its ugly head. I'm not worried about the offense. Aaron Judge, we don't have to talk about Aaron Judge, because he gets that next level. Batting .411 or .421, went 4 for 4 yesterday. It's not his fault. It's not Ben Rice's fault, because Ben Rice is going to be your backup catcher, and when Stanton comes back, I think his playing time is going to be a little bit more reduced. That if Ben Rice keeps hitting the way he is, that it's either going to be this. It's either going to be Ben Rice will be behind the plate as a backup catcher, but you got to keep his bat in the lineup, because he's hitting the ball, but he's batting like .290, and Stanton's going to have to play the field. But that would be a good thing, because he hits better when he's out in the field. And it's not Goldschmidt's fault. He's hitting singles, but he's still batting over 340 or something like that. But Cody Bellinger needs to step up. Austin Wells needs to step up. Volpe needs to fucking step up. Jazz Chisholm. Stop being a fucking soda wannabe in the fucking batter's box. Half your hits is left the yard. And he needs to keep his mouth shut, too. On top of that, he needs to fucking start hitting. And I think there's one other fucking player that's but these guys need to fucking step it up. You know, I'm not worried about the offense. I'm not worried about Judge. I'm not worried about Rice. I'm not worried about Goldschmidt. I'm not worried about fucking Grisham. And Grisham's been the most improved. Because last year, this time, he was batting like, he was batting like 50. But he's your fourth outfielder. And he's good for defense. And, but it's... And the bullpen, I mean... Everyone is getting on Devin Williams. I'm not worried about Devin Williams. I'm just not. You want to know why I'm not worried about Devin Williams? Because this is what he's done in April. He starts off slow, and he gains momentum. So, this is normal. Give Devin Williams a chance. We have a very good 1-2 punch in the back end of the back end of the bullpen with Weaver and Williams. You can't go wrong with either. So, we'll be fine in the bullpen. But the fucking pitching, Rodon has to fucking step up. He needs to fucking stop fucking letting the umpires get to him. And I just think once maybe Heel would get back in early June, we'll be stronger. But Max Free is every bit as advertised. That's your ace right now until Cole returns next year. And he's delivering. So we don't try not get swept this morning. I forgot who's pitching tonight this morning. I think it's Carrasco, I think. Don't quote me on it. I could be wrong. But between that, the draft, the playoffs in hockey and basketball, there's so much fucking shit on. It's just ridiculous. It's like fucking, you need like 6 TVs and whatnot. But the TV that I have, you can put on 4 screens, like I did yesterday, so you can watch both NBA games and both NHL games. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, the draft's in less than a day and a half. When Joe Shane turns his card in, I'll be, either Carter or Hunter. Can't go wrong with either. But if it's Sanders, that'd be a little bit of an issue, I think. Because if this team starts off slow when he plays, Dion's going to open his mouth. And this team doesn't need that distraction. So, and as much as this team spent a lot of resources on Sanders, I wouldn't be surprised if they took him at 3. But I think they were looking at Hunter all this time. I think. Because they need another skill player opposite of Malik Neighbors. Darius Slayton isn't it. He's too inconsistent, in my opinion. And he will drop to wide receiver 4 if the Giants do select Hunter. He will. It's that simple. And if we do draft Hunter, I'm sorry. You're not playing both ways. It's just, if Dable has him play both ways, he will be injured by week 9. This isn't Colorado. There's a lot more to that than in college. And he'll realize that. And I think that the Giants would be better off as him as a wide receiver. Because we got a good secondary with, we got a Debo, and hopefully Banks can improve. And we got Holland and Newman and And what's his name in the third round we got last year? I forgot his name. God, I'm not drawing a blank. It's tight. It's long overnight, but that's what I think. I think that the Giants will. I think Joe Shane will get it right, but it'll be up to Brian Dable to develop these guys. And to me, he's done a poor job these last 2 years. And that's my biggest concern about Brian Dable. Will he develop? And will these guys in year one, Neighbors, Newman, Theo Johnson, Marisal, will they improve from year one to year two? That's the concern I have. Because if it's like the last two drafts that with Dable, I'm very concerned. So we'll see what happens. And then I'll probably do a video after the round one to just give you my thoughts on the Giants' first round pick and who I think they should go after in rounds 2 and 3. But I think Joe Shane will get it right. I think he will. I'd be surprised if he made the wrong move. But I think his job is more, I think, secure than Brian Dable's. I don't think it's more on, I think it's more indicative on Dable than it is on Shane, because I think Shane will get this right. And it's just, like I said, it's up to Dable to develop these players. And I don't think so. I don't think he has it in him. But that's my opinion. But we'll see. We'll see come Thursday. And I'm going to go inside. I'm going to take a nap before I get called again. You never know. But hopefully the Yankees don't get swept. And that's about it. So you leave a comment if you disagree on what I said. We can have a respectful, debate about it. We can subscribe if you like. But we'll see. Everyone have a good night.